So, salamat kay Angel Locsin. At sa Good News 5, thank you so much. God bless you all.
At around 9:30 in the morning, with recipients already by the thousands, even reaching as far as Commonwealth Avenue, the crowd swelled, visibly not observing social distancing. Some just wanted to have a glimpse of the actress, while others jumped the line after knowing that only those with stubs will be entertained.
Yung wala ng stop, bibigyan namin kayo ng 30 minutes na umuwi. Pagka hindi, bibigita namin kayo.
Things took an even more tragic turn when 67-year-old Rolando de la Cruz fainted while lining up.
Distansya po kayo, wala po
He was brought to the East Avenue Medical Center but was declared dead on arrival.
Tinanong ko dun sa mga kamag-anak, may sakit po pala sa puso, si Kuya Lando.
On her Instagram page, Angel apologized for the chaos that ensued.
Nagsimula po kami na maayos pong aming layunin, pati ng aming pong pagpaplano ng social distancing. Nagkataon lang po talaga na siguro gutom lang po talaga yung tao na kahit wala po sa pila, sumingit na po sila. Kaya sa mga nagambala ko po dito, pasensya na po, hindi po itong intensyon ko.
Because of the incident, the supposed day 2 of the community pantry might not push through.
I don't think papayagan na po ako ulit na gawin to. Baka po ipahatid na lang din po namin kung ano man po yung matitira na goods namin sa inyong lugar dito sa area para mapakinabagan nito ng iba.
According to the barangay, an estimate of around 10,000 people flocked the area. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
To get his reaction on this unfortunate incident, we are joined tonight by Bayan Muna Chairperson Nery Colmenares. We have to say Mr. Colmenares is a relative of Ms. Locsin, and he is speaking for her this evening. Good evening, Mr. Colmenares.
Hi, good evening, Roby. Yes, thank you for inviting me.
Sir, nakita naman po natin yung apology ni Angel, and she was saying this was clearly, obviously, not the intent. But we also saw somebody collapsing. Eventually, reports say that man died, and a lot of social distancing protocols, unfortunately, not observed. We anticipate that there may be still reports on the fallout from this incident. We saw her apology, but does Ms. Locsin should she feel responsible, if not accountable?
Yes. Well, actually, I haven't seen Jel today, no, so I could not speak on her behalf, no. Pero ang nangyari, napag-alaman ko doon sa nangyari, because I dropped by there, they took all precautions. May markers silang sinet up kagabi para sa social distancing. Meron silang checklist na binigay para mabilis na mabigay. Nag-coordinate sila sa barangay. May permit naman yung barangay. May tanod nga pinadala na tumulong sa pag-marshal. And marami silang precautions na ginawa katulad ng may salamin para mabilis na lang mabigay kaagad. But well, hindi talaga na foresee yung dagsa ng tao. So despite the precaution na ginawa nila, at syempre walang intensyon makatulong lang sa kapwa nating nagugutom, nangyari yung tragic incident. So nakakalungkot na may namatay at sa pamilya ng namatayan, nakakalungkot. At siyempre, malungkot din kami na kamag-anak na Angel na yun ang nangyari ngayon na birthday niya. Pero siyempre, hindi naman sinadya yan at hindi ginusto yun. And in fact, they took all the precautions naman para hindi umabot sa ganito. It's just that na-overwhelm yung crowd.
Yes, but you are a lawyer as well, sir. I just wanted to pick your brains. And we know that the community pantries, people take it in the context of volunteerism.
Yes.
But Angel Locsin, being a very public figure, and as you said, she did seek a permit from the barangay. But when does that volunteerism cross over into a publicly organized event owned by and attributable to one personality?
Well, actually, ang nangyayari naman yan sa atin, there are events that became public na malaki ang pumunta. Ang hinihingi na naman talaga ng batas that you took precaution. Nag-ano ka ng mga precautionary measures para doon. So, nag-coordinate siya sa barangay, and the barangay health, meron namang mga tanod na i-permit naman, and they really took ng mga protocol. Pero grabe ang dagsa in the end, and it really shows na kombinasyon siguro na gustong, medyo may gutom na nangyayari ngayon. And secondly, syempre, gusto ring makauwi agad. So, series of unfortunate events ang nangyari in the end na hindi na-control. So, para sa akin, whoever wants to, dapat ma-encourage kasi ang community pantry At sana hindi ito maging issue na hindi na lang nila gawin yon. Ang requirement lang naman talaga dyan, you take precaution and at least na yung mga protocols, you try as much as you can na ma-observe yun. Pero first time na nangyari na ang pantry, ganito kalaki ang dagsa. Never expected na ganong kalaki. Kaya siguro, hanapan ng paraan na pag mga ganitong events, medyo i-expect yung ganong laking crowd and other things na pwedeng ma-contribute in coordination with the LGU.
Yeah, but the reality is
But
that...
she did coordinate with the LGU.
Yeah,
So,
yes,
yun naman
but to that point, sir, yun po yung gusto ko tanongin. Because in the past 2 days, that was ironically one of the things that LGUs who wanted to support community pantries did take a stand on. They did say na hindi kailangan ng permit. One mayor, I think it was Vico Soto, who even said, wala po kaming permit to help. But this ironically does reignite that conversation with people on both sides also acknowledging that, well, at the very least, there must be coordination, precisely anticipating health protocol problems and crowd control problems. Now, I'm not asking you as the representative of Angel Locsin. I'm asking you now as a lawyer, as somebody who you reached out as well to Ana Patricia Noon about her rights. So where does that now put our conversation about the role of the LGU and whether or not people need permits for these things, which, let's face it, there should be some certain amount of being able to anticipate, especially when it's celebrity calling and announcing for their own community pantry.
Yes, I think, Robbie, it's not an issue of permit Kasi ano nga ba naman ang permit na ma-issue ng LGU? Kasi building permit, ano yung mga ini-issue ng LGU, permit to do business, hindi ito business, hindi commercial. So talagang hindi issue ang permit dito. Pero in this case, Angel coordinated with the LGU. At tumulong ang LGU. No? So siguro, capacities naman ito, hindi nakayanan naman ng LGU na mag-provide ng ganong karaming tao sa ganong karaming dagsa. Hindi na-predict ni Angel, hindi na-predict ng LGU, hindi na-predict ni Numan na ganon kalaki ang crowd na darating. No? And basta ang sabi ko nga, ang lahat ng mga pantry organizers, of course you're asked to observe COVID health protocols. And may marshals to make sure. Ngayon, may mga ibang instances that the LGU's help. Nakita ko doon sa Maginhawa, yung LGU tumulong doon sa marshal ng crowd. So, yun yung mga precautionary measures na nire-require ng batas. So, I would like to say to the organizers na you take these precautions. Kasi yun ang requirement ng law na you take these precautions lang naman and of course, voluntarism ito. Ngayon, kung isisi sa kanila, sa mga pantry organizers, if may nangyari na unexpected event, halimbawa, nagkaroon ng isang COVID doon sa isang pantry, whether it's Maginhawa or in Bicol or wherever, itry nating i-minimize yan. Pero parang ang ibig ko lang sabihin, as long as they take that precautionary measure.
Okay.
Pero kung hindi ka nag-take ng precautionary measure, that's a different story. And in the case naman ni Angel, she took all the necessary precautions naman para ma-ensure na maayos yung pag-deliver kanina ng pantry niya.
Okay. Mr. Colmenares, maraming salamat po. That was Bayan Muna Chair, Nery Colmenares. But again, just to repeat, he is not speaking for us Bayan Muna Chair. He is a relative of Angel Locsin and was representing Ms. Locsin in this interview. Since Maginhawa Community Pantry's inception, several others have sprouted across the Philippines. Tonight's big number is 358. That is the total number of community pantries mapped by Saan Yan PH in its tracker as of April 22, 8 a.m. Ana Patricia Non's brainchild has also reached neighboring Timor-Leste. Laser Sumagaysay, the Vice Consul of the Philippine Embassy in Dili, said on Facebook that the Bayanihan spirit inspired them to follow suit.
These are the other big stories tonight. COVID-19 reproduction number in Metro Manila has finally gone down below 1, but experts warn this has to be sustained before loosening restrictions. 24 deaths were recorded among the 1 million Filipinos vaccinated against COVID-19, but the fatalities are not jab-related. And the country lodges 2 new diplomatic protests as 160 Chinese vessels are still moored in Philippine waters. These big stories after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. As the healthcare sector still wrestles with the pandemic, Filipino-made ventilators may soon come in handy to help respond to severe COVID-19 cases. But when will these life-preserving machines be available? Jen Calimon has the details.
In the fight against COVID-19, mechanical ventilators are lifesavers for patients with severe symptoms. And with the surge in cases comes the need for more ventilators. Latest Health Department data shows 60% of machines are in use in Metro Manila, while 40% are being utilized nationwide. Last year, the Department of Science and Technology called for proposals for the manufacturing of emergency ventilators. Out of 22 submissions, 3 were given the go signal to develop prototypes. DOST has allocated 7 million pesos to sponsor these projects.
It runs through a rigorous set of tests, in terms of durability, consistency in the performance, and then of course also endurance, kailangan tumagal din sila kung gaano katagal talaga sinasalang ito, kinakabit ito sa isang pasyente.
Among the approved designs is Technological Institute of the Philippines Engineering Faculty Siglavent ventilator. It compresses an ambibag, producing air for a patient. It has a computer system that controls the respiratory rate and tidal volume, or the amount of air that moves in and out of a patient's lungs. An oxygen tank may be attached to this machine. It also has an alarm and backup battery system in case of power interruption.
Normally kasi yung ambu bag, pag ina-actuate, tao lang kamay lang ng tao. Either nung nurse or nung ibang doktor sa ER or kung minsan, pag talagang kapos na sa tao, medical practitioners, yung mga family members na lang nakikibomba doon sa ambu bag sa tabi ng pasyente. So we decided that that would be something that would be very useful.
The components are easily accessible locally and we could really definitely manufacture it dito sa Pilipinas.
The TIP group is now preparing for a clinical trial. If they pass, they may apply for an emergency use authorization from the Food and Drug Administration to start mass production. Aside from TIP, 2 other chosen prototypes are the Spiritus Vitae of Don Bosco Technical College and the Neurovant of Neuronmec Incorporated.
Nagpapakita lang ito, Jen, na mataas na yung level ng kakayahan ng nating mga Pilipino pagdating sa larangan ng siyensya at teknolohiya. Who knows, no? Hindi na malayo na baka tayo pa ang mag-export din ng mga medical devices sa iba pang bansa na maaring mga ilangan nito.
The target commercial rollout of these ventilators is next year. Reporting for News 5, Jen Calimon, We Are One News.
For the first time since stricter quarantine restrictions were reimposed in Metro Manila, COVID-19 reproduction number has gone down to the ideal level of below 1. Octa research fellow and molecular biologist priest Nicanor Austriaco says the reproduction number of COVID-19 in NCR is now down to 0.98. This is much lower than the rate of 1.3 reported at the start of the month. The reproduction number refers to the number of people that a single COVID-19 patient can infect. Despite this, Austriaco says they are still not in favor of lifting MECQ in Metro Manila.
So you have to sustain the R below 1 for at least several weeks. And we urge the national government as one possible benchmark for changing quarantine levels is not to exit the MECQ until at least the R is less than 0.9 and at least in a sustained manner.
Time for our next news look at some of the day's big stories. FDA reports 24 deaths among the over 1 million Filipinos who have already received their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Out of those who died following their vaccination, 10 received Sinovac, while 14 received the AstraZeneca shot. Health officials clarified, though, that majority of the reported deaths are not related to vaccines, with many already having comorbidities. Philex Mining is bullish that the executive order lifting the ban on new mining deals will benefit its Silangan copper and gold project. The miner expects EO 130 to help the project attract potential partners. The Mines and Geosciences Bureau has finished drafting the implementing rules and regulations for the EO, which is expected to be released in 2 weeks. And the Foreign Affairs Department files 2 new diplomatic protests over the illegal presence of 160 Chinese vessels that remain in Philippine waters. The vessels were spotted in the Kalayaan Island Group and in territorial waters of Bajo de Masinloc. DFA said the vessels blatantly infringe upon Philippine sovereignty and jurisdiction. For the big story in sports, Barangay Ginebra has unveiled their new jerseys for the upcoming PBA season. The Gin Kings unveiled their One Ginebra Nation jersey and cap, which were made in line with the company's new Bagong Tapang campaign. It honors the new courage and strength Filipinos have shown during the pandemic. Part of the proceeds of the collection promo will be given to Gawad Kalinga. Time for another quick break. When we return, warehouses are now being filled with repossessed cars as many motorists are forced to give up their ride due to the pandemic. And we've heard all week how many Filipinos give out the goodness of their hearts to help out those in need. But what about the less fortunate giving back? Their stories after the break.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. Bad car loans in the Philippines ballooned last year as the economic crisis caused borrowers to fall behind their auto loan payments. This obviously is not good news for banks, but it sure is for bargain hunters. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez gives us the front seat to this story.
This is not a mall parking lot. What you're looking at is just a portion of the 7-hectare warehouse in General Trias, Cavite that houses the thousands of vehicles that have been repossessed by one of the country's biggest banks. From private cars to trucks, repossessions quadrupled between 2019 and this year, according to Automart.ph, which runs the site on behalf of the banks. Automart says a few of these came from people who chose to voluntarily give up their vehicles last year after being asked to work from home.
So a lot of these units were returned dahil hindi na sila masyadong kailangan and siguro hindi na rin mabayaran.
Latest data show bad loans at local banks are growing at a faster pace than the rest of the ASEAN. Loans are considered bad or sour when they go unpaid at least 30 days after their due dates. And in time of crisis, auto loans are often one of the first to go unpaid.
So believe it or not, many of the vehicles here have only little mileage on their odometer, just like this Mitsubishi Mirage 2019 model, which was surrendered during the pandemic. It was only more than 2,300 kilometers. From originally 800,000, this was only sold for 350,000.
Vehicles across the price range are being sold for 30 to 50% below market value. That is proving to be too good to pass up for people like Daniel, who bought a 2017 Isuzu Crosswind at almost 30% off.
Parang necessity siya eh. Mahirap commute. Nandun na yung risk ng coronavirus.
Delinquencies are expected to peak in the second half of 2021 as the economy remains weak and the lockdown drags on. Ratings agency S&P is forecasting the bad loan ratio to shoot up to 7.7%, which is above the Bangko Central's estimate. Repossessed cars are coming in at such a fast clip that some are being auctioned off.
Hindi pa tapos yung quarantine, hindi pa tapos yung pandemya, so I don't see it stopping yet.
This year, the bank that owns the slot in Cavite is leasing additional warehouses in anticipation of more cars being repossessed. Which means even with travel restrictions in place, second-hand marketplaces like Automart will be busier than ever. I'm Pamela Vasquez and we are One News.
Let's take a look at the biggest stories on print and online. From the Philippine Star, in order to encourage people to go out, dine, and shop, the government will soon place safety seal stickers on stores and restaurants compliant to health protocols. The safety seal is printed on a purple sticker. It shows a green check mark against a white background, and underneath it reads, "We follow safety and health protocols against COVID-19. From Business World, a regional wage board defers its decision on a petition to raise daily minimum wage in Calabarzon to as much as 70 pesos. The wage board said they are deferring the decision due to an increase in unemployment and underemployment in the region. The petition was filed in July 2019, but hearings had been disrupted by the Taal eruption in early 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic. And this from News 5, international and local airlines are expected to start a trial implementation of a digital travel pass. It uses an app where passengers put their swab test results, vaccine details, and other documents. Philippine Airlines said the app will be used starting May 4 for passengers going to Los Angeles and Singapore.
In world news, a desperate hunt is ongoing for a missing Indonesian Navy submarine carrying 53 crew members. Lost in the Bali Sea, the 44-year-old vessel's oxygen supply is now critically low and will only last until Saturday. The submarine was conducting a torpedo drill in waters north of Bali when officials lost contact. Helicopters flew from Bali while Navy ships were deployed from a neighboring island early in the morning to the submarine's last known location. As they say, be a giver in a world full of takers, and that's exactly what some community pantry beneficiaries did. They replenished the stalls after getting some goods. Mobile journalist Teresa Urmatam will give us a front seat to that story.
As many more community pantries pop up, many bayanihan stories are also coming to light. Filipinos taking from these pantries are giving back. One manang from Bacolod City recently went viral on social media. As she took food from a community pantry, she also left a bag of bicho-bicho. She was originally selling them but gave them for free as the pantry already solved her meal budget for the day. This chicharon vendor at another pantry in Bacolod took a few canned goods and handed some of his own goods for the organizers to enjoy. Micaela from Naglaran, Laguna also had a taste of free merienda.
Hindi na kinuha right then and there yung bigas. Tinanong pa niya if it's okay. Tapos inaabot niya na yung palit. Tapos sabi ko, hindi na, libre lang yon, walang kapalit. Tapos sabi niya, hindi, libre din yon. And nagpasalamat siya.
And it's not just local snacks. A group of students in Alcala, Cagayan left their pantry in the morning but came back in the afternoon to a box full of cash.
Sasabi ko po, ba't po may box dito? Libre po to. Baka akala nila honesty store po. Tapos yun sinabi nung isa na naglagay na, kami po yung naglagay dyan sir para po kahit konti man lang may maiambag po kami para maipagpatuloy po tong pantry natin.
While there are some stories of hoarding, there are still many stories of giving. Whoever takes from these pantries, the organizers are just grateful to help those in need.
Sa 10 na may 2 hoarder o 8 hoarder, may 2 pa rin tayong natulungan na naitawid ang pang-araw-araw na pangangailangan.
Gaya nga nung Facebook post ni Miss Ana Patricia, sabi niya, tiwala lang sa masa.
When you plant a seed of kindness, goodness blooms. There may be some bad soils, but in general, our community pantries has grown a garden abundant of bayanihan. Teresa Ormatam, we are One News.
These stories are really humbling and it's amazing. Actually, tama yung sinabi niya, no? When you plant seeds of kindness, it blooms.
And it's good to bring back. I mean, I'm glad that this is our final story for the week because this was really the story of the week, diba? I mean, it's hard to imagine this is just a 1-week-old story, but the movement has really gone nationwide, if not even internationally, diba? Sa East Timor, diba? I mean, there are going to be some real questions now on the part of LGUs because of what happened kanina with Angel Locsin's initiative. But this is a nice story to still remind people why this is a growing movement.
And go back to the heart of the community pantry. And it's humbling because, you know, the less fortunate giving back says that no matter where you are in life, meron kang mabibigay. Diba?
Yung sinabi nga ni Ana Patricia, magbigay ayon sa kakayahan, apparently, lahat tayo may kakayahan.
And I hope it continues on that way with the heart of the community pantry. Well, that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again Monday at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
At ako naman po si Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Have a good weekend.